a success? Have I grown through any of my successes, any of my victories, the wins? Yes, they were a celebration of hard work and that team effort in an individual sport. But 100%, I learned more and far more about myself and the world around me when I risked it all and I committed to that challenge. And many times I crashed. In fact, I'm probably more famous for someone who's overcome multiple injuries than anything I actually achieved in the sport. But in a weird, almost sadistic way, I look back at those injuries. I see the scars that I sport all over my body, and I look at that with pride. It takes a lot of confidence to live your life 100%. And I have this reputation of being a daredevil, thrill seeker, risk taker. But actually, the truth is that for a huge chunk of my career, when I had the potential to win and my body was at its healthiest, I was choosing to underperform. I'm going to take you back a little bit now and tell you one story before I bring in a friend of mine tonight. 2006. In training, I was one of the best in the world, constantly paired with those who were winning World Cups. And yet in races, I struggled to transition that same speed. By this point, I had some lucrative sponsors. People were investing a lot in me, both financially and emotionally, into my career. I was one of Sir Clive Woodward's prodigies. And there were big expectations on how I would perform on that world stage. And I didn't exactly fail. I slowly climbed up those world rankings, but I never hit that winning point that so many people had forecast. In fact, I ended up resenting how fast I skied in training because it implied that I was choking in races, which is my least favorite word in the English language. I didn't know why I wasn't delivering. I didn't know why I was blocked in races. I tried to get help, and I have a lot of psychologists that I reached out to, but I really believe at the very top of your game and very small marginal gains, the only way to improve yourself is to work things out by looking inside. Now, in psychology, there are two mindsets in life. There are only really two choices that you make, and I'm going to radically simplify this because we're not here for a week seminar. We're just here for one night only. There is the fixed mindset. I can only do what I can do. This is me, and this is what I can do. Or there's that growth mindset, having the confidence to explore your personal boundaries, to challenge yourself by getting out of your comfort zone. This is self-expansion. And I almost found it. I was this close at the Turin Olympics in 2006. In fact, it was a one-liner from my Austrian coach that could have changed everything. I nearly came away from Turin as an Olympic medalist. Just to retrack a bit, it was a strange weather day. Some of you might have watched this race, and we woke up. There was a huge dump of snow, 90 centimeters of new snow, which for all of us members and all of us who love skiing would have been great, but not for a racer. Compound with the fact that we could only see 5 meters ahead of us. They delayed the start 4 times. 4 times we got psyched up, mentally prepared for the biggest race of our life, and 4 times they said, no, not now. At 2 p.m. we had our last window for this race to happen. But by this time, the fear of the girls who were huddled together in this tiny start hut at the top of this race in Italy was palpable. Like, I remember looking over and seeing Maria Rees. She'd put 10,000 hours in for this one run. She was supposed to win that race. She was on top form, her equipment was fast, and she actually had tears rolling down her face. My coach, he pulled me to the side and he said to me, you know what, Chemmy, today you have the choice. You can choose to be scared or you can choose to be fast. The most simple, uncomplicated advice. He didn't actually tell me anything at all. There's no golden nugget of technique in there. He just let me know that whatever happened for the next 2 minutes of my life, I had the choice over the outcome. I could choose what would happen with those 2 minutes. And I stood at that start gate and I smiled inside because I thought, you know what? I'm an underdog here. These are my conditions to excel. Just to give you a little bit of a backing here, I'm going to show you, I recently got hold of this video of me in Turin racing. So here we go. Here it is. I'm going to share this with everyone. Here we go.
14, Chemmy Alcott of Great Britain. Away she goes. Needs to get the start right. No stumble. Sometimes she can be a bit scrappy coming out of the start gate. She got that right and straight into the tuck at the top of the course.
Yeah, I think we can expect to see Chemmy skiing this top section really well. She likes the technical part. She likes the tough, gnarly parts, not the flat section in the middle. And here you've got
Chemmy's going for it. First jump. And she's ahead by 0.18. Great top section by Chemmy Alcott.
This is fantastic skiing. 1800s up. Come on, Chemmy. Straight back into the tuck. Yeah, she's really, really going for it here. Smooth skiing as well. Not getting chucked around too much. A little bit offline there, but this is excellent.
Now, 46.68 for Meisnitzer. Alcott is still ahead. 0.17 faster. 101.3 through the gun. That's the quickest we've seen so far. Alcott's really having a charge here.
Fantastic. She's absolutely flying here. Come on, Chemmy. Great jump as well. Stay low. Back on the snow. Come on.
2:10. Green light for Chemmy Alcott. Gasps in the finishing line as they see the British racer possibly about to take gold medal position in the Olympic downhill. Slightly late in the line. She's recovered. How much time has that cost her? Chemmy Alcott approaching the finishing jump. She's landed. She tucks in for home. Chemmy Alcott. No! She's gone second. Oh my word, how close. Chemmy Alcott skis into silver medal position. No wonder she's celebrating. What a cracking run.
Fantastic, Chemmy. Well done. She was absolutely delighted with that. It was just those last 2:10. She lost it in those last couple of
I'm
corners.
just trying to get back to my view.
Chemmy.
They're still talking, but they will stop talking in
Now,
1 second.
Ricky, good enough for a medal.
Okay, teams.
Michaela
So this
Goldmeister.
will stop. Sorry, it just outplays a bit. The first thing I noticed when I watched that is how young I look in it. But the second thing is how happy I was at the bottom there. I skied out my skin. Bar that one mistake at the end, I think probably you guys, if you were listening to the commentary, you will have seen I outrun the track onto the flat. I had the run of my life and I was thrilled to finish 11th. And I was so elated, so happy. And I went to celebrate with my family and I was hit by this strange situation with my family. They were on edge, nervous. And I didn't understand because our emotions were so separated and different. And finally, one of my brothers said, you know what, someone's got to tell her, you were in 3rd place, Chemmy, in that Olympic downhill for 1 minute and 28. So I really threw it away over those last 16, 17 seconds. But at the same time, you know, I was young and I was hungry and I wasn't hurt. And I thought, you know, I've got time to develop. And that was a game changer for me. It was the first time I had given it my all without the pressure in a huge event. And it almost was a massive success story. But I realized that for years looking back, I had been afraid to risk. Because if I did give it my all, my 100% and still not win, I'd have to admit to myself and all these people and family who'd invested in me that perhaps I wasn't good enough. So I skied in my comfort zone. I'd skied at 80% and it was good enough to be the best in Britain. And on a performance level, on a world stage, it was good, it was adequate, it was sufficient, but it was by no means spectacular. It was worse than that. It wasn't my best. I wasn't fulfilling my true potential. And it was my choice to not fulfill that potential. All through fear of failure, fear of letting other people down. And from that moment on in skiing and in life, I vowed to commit to that 100%. I vowed to take those risks, take those chances, because I learned then that if you pursue your dreams, there is a chance you might fall short. But if you don't, then you're guaranteed to fail. And that was a massive life lesson for me. And I wanted to share that with you because the theme of today is this growth mindset, is this having this confidence to go out there and every day and be better. And now I would like to introduce you to a man who 100% lives by this message. He supports others from all those corporate bigwigs all the way to supermodels and everyone in between to be their very best. And I actually have to thank being in lockdown for our introduction. And one of the most positive experiences I've had over the past few months for me has been getting to work and know Brad Waldron. He's an incredible athlete, speaker, and magician, as you will soon see. I'm hoping that he's going to come and join us now. Good evening, Brad. Here we go. He's coming in. He's in the mountains as well.
I had to be.
Yes. Hello, Snow Bunny.
I know.
So, Brad, thank you so much for joining tonight. I think your value to these members is incredible. We are a massive ski community. We are all a little bit disheartened because a lot of us missed the end of our season. And you have such great messaging and strength. Just talk about your athleticism first, Brad, because you are a multi-sport athlete.
Listen, if I talk about my athleticism of now, I'm a 53-year-old that sort of rolls down hills.
Well, that's perfect.
But no, listen, I've had the couple of sports that I did pretty well in them. You know, I won three national titles and one world title in 2 different sports, and 3 different sports actually, truth be told. But you know, each one of them I pursue not with the desire to be the best, but with just the desire, full stop. And with that comes the gifts that you've been blessed with. I truly think that. Now, don't get me wrong, you need a lot of help on the way, and who you surround yourself becomes your peer group and also your success tribe. But ultimately, you know, a friend of mine who's a current world champion in something called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he runs a club up in Birmingham. His name's Braulio Estema. And Braulio says, listen, I can make world champions, but I need the talent to get them there. Not everyone will be, but if you've got the talent, my job is to make sure I get you there. And everyone has their own innate talent.
I think that's kind of what the ski club does, is it brings these people with the talent and the passion together. And one of the biggest success stories for us as a club is that a lot of people's partners don't ski, and they get into these marriages and they think, look, I love you, but you don't ski. Is it a deal breaker? Oh, hang on a second. The ski club, it's like a dating agency without the romance, which brings people to the slopes to share passion, and the talent levels all the same. So you put people who are talented at sport in a room together, and you always get this incredible energy and sharing experience. And for me, you know, that's the incredible value of sport. What was the biggest life lesson that sport taught you, Brad?
Oh man, put yourself out there. It's really simple. I can give you a lot of real intrinsic bit of wisdom related to Eastern mythology, but you know what? Sport gives you a couple of things. One is it gives you friends. It gives you a peer group. It gives you somewhere to go. There's not a place in the world I can't go to and find like-minded people with the sport that I still play. And so there's those you know, it's much more than the sport. And I can remember sitting at rugby was one of my sports, sitting in a changing room, looking around, and we were playing a cup semi-final. And I was looking around at the boys, and I just went, this is actually not about the game. This is about us. And so you have that deep-rooted connection. Like you said, you come together, and what you have as a consequence is far more than the sport itself.
Yeah, definitely. I really, really love that. And I think we're in a world where we look at the news. We know that people are deluding us with, politicians are deluding us with what they want us to believe and be told. And I know you've got a really interesting skill on the magic, the perception of the world. I love this. Brad did this with me. I was on actually with him as his guest a few weeks ago. So this is me bringing him on to introduce him to you. And I really love this. Brad, will you do it for us? Because I think it's really important that people learn to see the world as they want to see it.
Yeah, that is a choice, right? That's one of the gifts that we've got. And I just need to caveat this, which is in this downturn that we've had, you know, I often ask people, now this might seem a little bit trite, but it's a really important question. What's the 10 best things that's happened to you since COVID, right? Let's turn on the optimism gene. And people say, I'm sleeping better, I'm eating better, I spend more time with the people I love. I'm finding out the people I spend time with aren't the people I love, so I'll be enlisting the help of a professional service after this, or whatever the case may be, right? It accelerates it. And that's hygiene factor. But the second part of it is, what else can we do that I wouldn't have done because I didn't have the time? And for me, a little bit of jazz piano, learning to do that. Can't place, all thumbs, no fingers, but I'm enjoying the learning of it. And the other thing that I picked up, I was just watching this guy do this magic online, and I went, if he could do that, I could do that. And I'm going to give it a go. And so I gave it a go, right? Risk massive failure. And let me show you something, right? So this is what I've shown you before. Let's see if I can just create a bit of space, because I'll probably make a mess. So I've got a nice bottle of water here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an apple and drop it into the bottle without taking the lid off. And that's the trick, right? Now, to do it, or the magic, I should say. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a photo of my mum and dad. Oh, no,
wait. Yeah, you need to turn off your, yeah.
I'll show you that book.
Oh, you might need to turn off your
will.
sexy chalet that you're in, Brad.
Yeah, thank you. I'll come out of my chalet for a moment. I'll go into the normal land, which is my place, a prison wall that I'm in front of. And check this out, right? So I'll get my apple in. You can see my apple. I'm going to show you my mum and dad from the 1970s. And
fantastic.
Watch how this apple, hang on, bloody hell, it's not going in. I've got to lick the sides of it. Hang on. The apple, that is.
So slick.
Watch. Oh, hey, look at that. Apple into the water. Ta-da! Now, this is the magic that I did a couple weeks ago for you. Now, what I'd be prepared to do is to tell the team here how I did it. But it's not the how I did it that's really the key. It's your perception. Because in doing something like that, any magic, any trick, it's all about the perception you have. And if you change the perception, you change reality, right? So check this out. Chemmy, can I just show you the map that I spoke about before?
Oh, yes. Sorry, let me make you host. Or I think our administrators made Brad host.
Yeah, I reckon so. Let's...
Done that? Can Brad share the screen, Peter? Sorry, this is live. This is exciting. Things go wrong, things go right. Thankfully, Brad's magic trick went right. He got the apple in the water without even taking off the lid. I do have to say, Brad, he didn't even take off the lid at the top. Boom. Okay, you are host now, Brad.
All right, that's magic in itself. Now check this out, ladies and gents. Have a look. What's that a map of? Look deeply at it. It's a map. It's an obvious map, but what of? And some people say to me, Brad, it's Holland. No, it's Colombia. But in actual fact, that's Australia. That's my homeland. And it's the way Australia looked back in the year 1753. Now, the way it looks in 1985 is this. If you look at the difference between the two maps, right? The difference in the two maps. And if you go down here where I'm going to circle with a pen, you'll see that the island of Tasmania has drifted away in the last 200 and 300 years from the mainland. Isn't that incredible? Drifted away. Is that what happened? Nah, not really, right? What happened is we got a better bloody map. So we changed the map. We've updated the map. We've developed the map for the reality that's really there. Because before, if I wanted to start in a place like called the Great Australian Bight and travel to Sydney, I would have to do the route that I've just drawn, right? It's a long route, but it would get me there. But you know what? With a better map, a more accurate map, I could start at the same place, not change my vessel, not change my skis, not even change my coach. But with a better map, I can pass through Bass Strait, get up to Sydney, and knock a couple of weeks off my journey. Because the map is your perception. It's the way you see the world. And the way you see the world drives your behavior. And I had a boss, a guy called Stephen Covey. He wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Stephen used to say, if you want small changes in life, change your behaviors, right? But if you want massive changes in life, change the way you see the world. Change your map or change your paradigm. And so, Chemmy, you and I'm going to ask you about this around, you broke your neck like me, right? We've got bodies that are well lived in. But with that in mind, I'm interested because when you break your neck, psychologically, it hits you in a way that I've not been hit before. And I've been hit many times with a variety of instruments. But the neck break was psychologically really big. But before I ask you about that neck break, let me show you what I mean about this whole apple trick, right? So if I just give you a bit of a sense of there's the apple in the bottle, well, the reality is if I change your point of view, the way you see this, you change your reality. And have a look when I turn the bottle around. If I move you, you can see, ta-da, I've just cut the back out of the bottle.
I'm your Debbie McGee.
Thank you very much. And a very good Debbie McGee with shiny teeth, but came very scrappy out of the gates. That was very poor of that commentator. Scrappy, yes, she likes Scrappy. How rude. But the reality is it's changing perceptions. And that to me, when I look at elite athletes, what elite athletes do is they have a perception that's slightly different to everyone else. Their athlete is, yeah, maybe, what if? Brad, we don't have enough financial resources to get you the training you need for leading up to this World Championships. Good. It means I'll go old school and I'll get it done. And I'll earn my medal that way. So doesn't matter what map someone gives you, you rewrite the map to serve you. So let's talk about your broken neck. Tell me, why did you come back from, why? You're like, you had, when you broke your leg, your bone was hanging out, right? And you just went.
I mean, it's kind of a weird thing when I get asked about my injuries, because obviously I don't want to promote my injuries. I'm in a community with you all where we've probably 80% of us have got hurt doing what we love the most, which is skiing. But for me, I am really proud of every time I had the confidence to take that risk and to push my limits. And actually my neck break, Brad, I was only 11. Really, I was doing a fun race with a very unfun outcome. And yeah, I ended up in La Clusaz in a hospital for a few months, and I healed within 9 months. It's absolutely incredible because I was so young. And actually the only thing I remember is that I became very popular at school because everyone was trying to be my best buddy so they could stay inside, because for some reason in the UK, Brad, everyone wants to be inside in break time, and I didn't, but that's what they wanted. So they used to try and bribe me. So that was my only memory of that. It's definitely my 2010 leg break. In fact, hang on a second, let me show it to everyone, because a lot of people they've seen this. And if you YouTube Chemmy's crash, there's loads on there, but none of them are the real one. So I'm gonna screen share this. This is exciting because this hasn't been seen very many times unless you watch the news back in 2010. Here we go.
Do we need to put a disclaimer on this?
It isn't the nicest, you are right. It's made by Sky TV, so it's a bit over dramatic. The worst thing is, this skiing before was so good. That wasn't great, but before that.
The result of Chemmy Alcott's 80-mile-an-hour crash during a training run was this: a compound fracture and multiple other breaks in her right leg, requiring surgery and an awful lot of steel.
So if you look at this bit, this big break here, this is where it broke through my ski boot. And actually, what are we? 10 years on now, my leg is still broken. So I tried to have that metal work taken out. I've had an external fixation. I've had an external cage. And now I have this nail down the bone marrow. Absolutely phenomenal surgery. But my leg is and always will be broken there. But the kind of point of that story and why I want to share that with you. Hang on, where are we? I've stopped screen sharing, haven't I? Is I watched that and I'm proud that I had the guts to go for it. I actually crashed because I made a tiny mistake entering about 20 meters before that jump. My plastic in my ski boot, we call it booting out, lay on the snow, and I just lost a little bit of balance, which meant when I went over it's called coach's jump, I still had pressure on my outside ski, which is why I rotated. And the funny thing about crashing is you get this like tunnel vision. I knew I was going to crash. I knew that it was going to be bad. So I went to protect myself, and then you're lying there and you do this kind of like head to toe. Am I okay? Is my neck okay? Yes, that was always a concern of mine. And then obviously I got down to my leg and you can hear the screams, but I've got an epic scar from that. I couldn't walk for 12 months. I had to do a TV show called Dancing on Ice to even get back onto my skis. I had no funding and I had no physio. But the fact is that I was charging. And if I wasn't charging, then I was still living at 80%. So after I made that decision to find that growth mindset and go 100%, on paper, my career actually looks pretty disastrous. I definitely never fulfilled my potential. I never won a World Cup. And I know that with the health that I had and the technique, I would have been really up there. But I was charging. Every day I chose to be at my limit. And it was a very satisfied way to live. And it meant that 17, 18 months I couldn't ski after that crash we just watched, and people wrote me off. But I made it back from that. And when I made it back, I knew that I couldn't win. I had I had to compensate on my right leg. In fact, that's the reason I've retired from the sport. But I still believe that I could give it a good go and I could be my best. And people bought into that story. That's what I loved. I was vulnerable for the first time in my life. I told people my fears. I told people about being scared, and people wanted to be part of that. And I think for me, that's why I've managed so well in lockdown, because I have woken up feeling blue sometimes. And every morning in our house, we have circle time where we talk about how we're feeling. And naturally, sometimes someone's not feeling that great. And as soon as you admit to that, you can work on it. And I think we have the power in this community at the ski club to talk, you know, to say, you know what, I've overcome this. Is there anyone out there who can help me with it? I've torn my ACL. There will be someone who can help you. And I think talking, I mean, Brad, that you make a living out of it.
Everyone's got a story, Chemmy. Everyone's got a story. You know, and I'll ask you the same thing I ask all people like you, which is, if you were to do it again, would you change anything?
No, because I never learned from, you know, if I had won that bronze medal back in Turin, you know, my ego might have spun out of control. I might not have learned all of these life lessons along the way. You know, yes, I would have loved an Olympic medal, but I'm so thankful for the opportunities of overcoming adversity and finding the funding to keep my dream alive, and all these skill set that I got as an athlete that I have brought into retirement and parenthood. That no, I wouldn't have it any other way.
There you go. There you go. It's a part of the tapestry of the story called life, and every chapter has its own beginning, middle, and end. And if we can continue to just keep living the chapters, the thing about COVID, you know, we're going to get through this, right?
Yeah.
Just like we've got through everything else. And if it's our time, it's our time. But don't let the threat of our time stop you from being who you can be, right? Don't get to wherever we end up and find that there's a whole lot of boxes stacked up against the wall, and you say to St. Peter, yeah, what are those boxes? Oh, they're just the gifts you didn't use. I'm saving them for you, right?
Yes, don't live within yourself. You know, once those doors open to our house for us to get out there and get out there running. You know, get out there and be your very best. I used to be massively obsessed with athlete autobiographies when I was a kid. I'm not allowed to say it, but Lance Armstrong, he was like my idol, which was okay back then because this was before he was exposed for the wrong reasons. And I realized that all of these icons, all of these athletes who had achieved greatness, they all had this chip on their shoulder. They all had a reason to be the best. They'd all overcome adversity. And actually my life was pretty damn vanilla until I was 21. Until I was 21, I had financial support. I had family doing everything. I had sponsors. And it took, you know, my mum passed away just after that run. That run that we just watched from Turin in the finish area, that was the last time I saw my mum. So it was a massive moment for me to take on as a young athlete. But it gave me the hunger and the fierceness to follow my dreams and be my best version. And we don't all want to overcome adversity. We all want to try and find our best without going to have to go over these hurdles. But for me, I mean, I don't know if I can still screen share, but I've redefined adversity. You're going to find this super cheesy, Brad, but maybe it'll help some of the guys. Okay.
Some types of cheese I really like.
Well, there you go. Check this out. So I made this slide. I'm a very annoying, eternally positive person, and I've redefined adversity. For me, it means another disastrous venture, and it's really surprisingly in triumph. And yes, you're going to be at rock bottom when you take risks. Sometimes you're going to fail, and sometimes you're going to have to pick yourself up, whether that's being injured or mentally from the floor. But those are the moments where you challenge who you are and you realize how great you can actually be. And the backdrop of this photo, this is the Lake Louise. So I crashed in Lake Louise in 2010. I made my comeback at Lake Louise 2 years exactly to the day that I had that crash on that run. Now, I didn't remember my run. They gave me ketamine, which gives you memory loss. And I decided to make my comeback at Lake Louise. And people said, you know what, why don't you wait? Why don't you come back to somewhere where you don't have this history and you know, you don't have the fear and the negative stories. And I said, you know what? 86 times I landed this jump. Just once I crashed. I would bet on myself. And I wanted to see what I was made of. I wanted to see if I would sink or swim in this huge pressurized environment. And I did. I actually qualified for my last Olympics in this run. The run that is on the screen now, I qualified. And no one rated me. No one thought. I celebrated more than Lindsey Vonn, who won the race. Okay, it was kind of embarrassing. I was so happy. But I think...
No, but hang on. The thing that, though, sorry, I'm talking over you like we've got gin and tonics in our hand. But the reality is, it's not about... If you benchmark yourself about other people, you'll forever run in the shadows of others. You're running in the shadow of your own... The Zulus and the Shangans of Africa, they call it Suriti. You run in your own shadow. Don't run in the shadow of you want to be of opinion. So you've got every right to go out and celebrate more than what the winner did, right?
Yeah, because it was my personal gold.
Correct. Yeah.
In fact, talking about this, Brad, we had an amazing response. We put out an email to see if any members wanted to share their stories, and we had so many people writing in. And actually, a few of them are going to come on tonight to share their stories, and they're being really brave with it. They are fantastic stories. They are people who've overcome their own adversities. I got to chat with them earlier, so I've got a little bit of a background, but Brad hasn't, and I'm really excited for you to meet them. First of all, we've got a man, he learned to ski over 50 years ago in Aviemore. He's a massive fan of the ski club. It's not an exaggeration now to say that the ski club has actually changed his life. It has switched his life 180 degrees around. I'm hoping that David is coming to join us now. I know that David, if you can hear me, just raise your hand at the bottom, and then our administrators can bring you in so you can have a wee chat with Brad and I, and we can see. Here we go, David Clarke, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll. We can't do it because we're not actually in a room, but David is joining us now, and he's just got such an epic story, and it really resonated with me because I went through a similar thing last year, nothing to do with injury. And some people might put personal confidence low on a scale of overcoming adversity, but what David has done and the choices he's made, especially in lockdown, are massively, massively inspiring. David, are you there? Are you coming? There he is.
Hi, here I am. I'm here.
Hi, David. So
Hello, Chemmy. Nice to see you.
You too. Good evening.
Brad.
I hope you've got your virtual gin and tonic. Brad, David.
Nothing virtual about it.
Oh, okay. Well, then I can bring mine in. Now, David, I've given you a bit of a big up then, but I wanted to leave it to you to tell our members listening, and Brad, your own story in your words.
Right, my story. Yes, Brad, when you said you were a 53-year-old but now rolled down the hill, well, that was me. That was me 14 years ago. I'm now a 67-year-old who decided in Closters this year I'd rolled down the hill too much and I was going to do it properly in future. I was skiing alone. I skied with the ski club. Met a guy called Peter Heap who was inspirational. And you said earlier, it's all about who you surround yourself by. Peter he'd have been a great leader, but he's not allowed to lead anymore. So I led, he skied with me, and he just talked to me and gave me a few ideas, pointed out how much I'd enjoy a fresh tracks course next year. Oh, and by the way, you might want to lose a couple of stone before you try it.
How rude.
And I came back, I weighed myself. I thought 130 kilos. No wonder I don't like moguls anymore.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's for those of us that think more imperial. That's 130 kilos is well north of 20 stone. So I thought if I could keep the power and reduce the weight, that ratio, I should be able to cope with the moguls next year.
Mm-hmm.
So again, surrounding yourself with the right people. I got a personal trainer involved. He put me on a bit of a diet. I'm doing exercise routines. I've been out on my bike. I'm playing a bit of golf. I'm down to 106 now. Still much too much. But it's probably what I was 10 years ago. Set myself a realistic target for about 4 months in, which is where I am. That target was 110k. Well, I'm down to 106. So I've beat my target. So I've reassessed it. I've set another target. 15 stone for 95 kilos for when I go on my ski tracks course this year, fresh tracks course. I'll be there.
You will.
Great. But it's all about motivation, having the right people around you. My wife, great encouragement every day when I lose some weight. It helps that she's trying to lose a bit as well, but doesn't really need to, of course.
You've forgotten one thing you told me earlier, and you told me the secret to your success is that you are in lockdown and your local pub is shut. That's what you told me earlier.
Worse than the local pub being shut, all the local pubs are shut.
I love that.
Lockdown has helped.
I love that you use this experience to set, tangible goals with the back of your head that you are going to ski better than you have skied in the last few years. Your passion on the mountain will only grow because of these decisions that you are making to be a better version of yourself. And I know it's tough. And the reason your story resonated with me is because when I finished skiing last winter, I'd had a baby in Jan. I finished the season and I was 83 kilos. Which is far too much for me. For my metal leg, I had so much pain, and it wasn't an aesthetic thing. I decided to kind of do a big turnaround. I just needed to be able to ski without pain in my knees. I mean, I've retired. I shouldn't have pain. I shouldn't have to pop pills every day. And I did the same as you. And at the end of the season, I went in 3 months, I lost 13 kilograms. And my skiing last season was incredible because of it. Like, you will feel, David, like a brand new man. You screw the moguls. You're going to be able to go heli skiing. You're going to go ski touring. You're going to be everywhere. That mountain the whole thing will be your playground.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And it's the ski touring I really want to do. I actually enjoyed last year amazingly. We went down a run where the lift was closed. We had to walk back up again.
Intentionally?
The downward bit was intentional. We had to get up high enough to get across. And it was a long way uphill. If Peter's listening to this, he'll remember the climb. It took me half an hour. We decided when I got up there, nothing wrong with the cardio side of me. It's just the work it was doing to get me there.
I mean, Brad, what I love about David is he's losing this weight not for health, not for aesthetics, because you didn't need that. You were fit enough. It was just, for performance, to be better at skiing. And that's a massive driver, right?
Yeah, it is a driver.
You've got a why, right? There's a big why in front of you, why you're doing it. The absence of a why, whilst motivation might start you, discipline keeps you going. And what hooks you into discipline is the why. And you've got it, right? Man,
yeah.
Keep going. Keep going.
What's your goal, David?
About 95. Sub 95. What a kind of a goal is, I'd like, when I look at these height and weight charts, I'd like not to be clinically obese.
Yeah. I would say one thing you have to
I'm never going to be skinny.
No,
I'm never going to be skinny.
They're very general. I remember I had a Wii. What are those things called? The electronic, the game.
Toilets, where you go to the toilets?
Yeah. No. The gaming Nintendo Wii. And I remember I was an athlete at the time, and I stood on it, and we were doing the sport one, and it weighs you, and it gives you a little symbol. And mine just started filling out. And I had this little figurine that looked like two peas on each other, and it says that I was overweight. And I was so angry because I'm like, you can't tell this from me putting in my height and my weight. You don't know my muscle mass. So don't worry about those things, David. Think about how you feel inside.
Oh yeah, but I know. I mean, like Brad, I used to play rugby. I mean, you don't prop and weigh 10 stone 10.
No, you do not, my friend. No, you do
not. No, it's not something I'm worried about. But as a reasonable target, something sub 15 stone, I know I'll be at my fighting weight then.
Mate, listen, you've got the body you deserve, right? And you'll pay the price you deserve as well when you get to certain ages. Our bodies will tell us that. They'll give us a bill for how we've lived. And what you're doing now will set you up for, I hope, for a lot, as he keeps taking a swig of alcohol, will set you up for the next stages, right? Look into the science that's coming out now. People are trying to help people to not to. And that's what you're doing. And keep doing it, man. You're a role model to everyone in this bracket.
Yeah, and it's so great to be part of a community that helped you realize that. So yeah, on behalf
Well,
of the ski club, keep using the network that we have here to all be your best.
Yep, it is down to the ski club at the end of the day. It was great. Thank
Amazing.
you.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much. Next up, we have got another incredible woman. Her story. Oh, excuse me. That sounded like I'm going to pretend one of the kids did that. Next up, we've got an amazing story. She didn't just face one hurdle. It was multiple hurdles, multiple hits. Adversity challenged her. And again, one of the biggest driving forces behind it all that kept her going was her strength and her passion for skiing. So I'd love to introduce Abby to everyone. There she is, just
Hello.
there.
Hi.
Hi, Abby. Good
Hello,
evening.
Chemmy. Hello.
Oh, you've just gone for a second. Oh, she's come back. She's come back.
Yes.
She's building the suspense, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not sure where I went to there.
Playing possum with us.
Start my video. Here we go.
Oh, lovely. Look at that.
Hello.
Where are you, Abby? Are you in Flen? You're somewhere with a lake.
Well, actually, it was just between on the road going up to Jasper from Lake Louise. So I did some touring there last year, and we were touring across the lake and then climbing up through the forest. It's amazing.
I'm jealous already.
Yeah. It was great. It was great.
So, Abby, you have a very personal story. Again, I'm going to let you tell it because I know possibly I know too much. So I'm going to let you.
Okay. So around 10 years ago, I was working hard. I had two lovely boys of 10 and 8. And I realized my marriage wasn't great at all. And so the marriage was basically we decided to end it, and we sold the house. I moved into a rental place with my two boys. I obviously needed to keep business going throughout this time, keep my boys on an even keel with their education, emotionally, etc., etc. A couple of months later, I went skiing with a couple of friends and snapped my ACL in Chamonix. It was the second ACL. I did the left one a few years beforehand. I knew exactly what I was in for. I just sat on that mountain, Chamonix, and sobbed. And I knew what I was in for. With the operation and the rehab, etc., etc. 2 young boys as well, always on the move, on the go, always needing to be different places. Their sport, skiing, obviously a very big part of our life. I was renting a place whilst the divorce was being sorted out and the finances were being organised. And the landlord decided he wanted to sell the place. So he actually just gave 1 month's notice at that time. And I was waiting for the operation, was hobbling around, couldn't physically move properly. So, and also having to work to keep the finances coming in, to sort out a new business, etc., etc. And then we did manage to move. And then I had a breast cancer scare at the same time. Luckily that was fine. It was all clear. It was all okay. But that was all in the space of a few months. And I was reeling, but just keeping going for the sake of the kids. If they hadn't been around and if I hadn't needed to keep going, just one step in front of the other during that time, whether I'd have done things differently or not, I don't know. But then you kind of, you sit back and you kind of think, I've got great people around me. I've got lots of friends. I've got my great friends who I ski with. Chemmy and I were talking about that this morning. We started skiing when our kids were tiny. Females just having kids, you're worried about going skiing for the first time. We became a very, very strong group. And so I had all of those great people to support me. And then you kind of realize, well, actually, you know, I've had all of this just thrown at me and I'm fine. I'm fine. So actually, if I'm fine, I can start making plans and I can start, you know, kind of doing things. And
oh my gosh,
I'm okay. I'm okay. And so then you start kind of making plans and, okay, in 1 month's time, I really want to be finding that house that, you know, I'd really love to do. And of course, I bought a complete wreck of a house and turned that all around and, you know, don't do things by halves and grew the business and just, you know, kind of sorted out everything. And then those small goals became bigger goals. And, you know, I was finding that putting one foot in front of the other kind of and working towards 1 month's time suddenly became, okay, well, where would I actually like to be in 6 months' time? And that 6 months suddenly then, where do I want to be in 1 year's time? And then I had a 5-year plan. And I'm here and I'm where I wanted to be. And a year ago, I decided to have a lifestyle change because everything had kind of come together and come in place. But skiing to me I've always been a passionate skier. I've loved it. That group of friends going away, going into the mountains, you clear your head, you can make plans, you can just take that space to think about things. And that's what skiing has given to me throughout that time. And hopefully it'll continue.
it's amazing.
That's my story.
Story.
It was a while ago.
But Abby, it's not just one. There's almost like a bloody avalanche of
It
one
was.
after another, right?
It
Instead of
was.
falling backwards, you fell forwards. You used adversity as opportunity, and that gave you like a fuel to say, hey, if I can do this, what else can I do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've achieved more, I feel, in the last 10 years than the 20 years beforehand.
That's amazing. I mean, you don't want to be driven. You don't want to have to go through any of what you've been through to find your best self. But in order for you to use it, look back and realize that you are the most incredible person now because of it is a huge strength. I said that. You didn't say that. I said that.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. But
I love that the skiing bit, and you still ski with your sons. You know what brings you together.
Very much so. Yeah. Well, my youngest is a ski instructor now. So yeah. I mean, we you know, skiing has been very, very important to us, and it's been a great thing to do as a single parent to go and do something like that with your sons. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, so you're probably sitting here thinking, what's all this fuss about lockdown? We just got a little pause on life.
It's fine. I've got them both back. It's lovely. And I didn't expect to ever have them back again.
I just heard that a lot of the mountains, especially in Scandinavia, keeping all that snow all over the summer. So we're going to have a really long start to the season next year as well. So.
Fabulous.
But you'll be able to get out there early, Abby, because I know you missed the end of your season.
Yeah, I know. Lots more to do though next year.
Exactly. Oh, thank you, Abby, so much.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you to share that.
Amazing.
Oh,
gosh. 2 completely different stories, but 2 completely fabulous people who have just shown what can happen with adversity if you just choose a different map, right?
Exactly. Look at the perception differently and choose to own it, acknowledge it, and learn from it. I think that's the thing with society now. I see so many people living within themselves and they're afraid to take risks because if they take a risk, they might fail. And they think failing is the bottom, the worst thing that can happen. Well, no, failing is how you look back and you learn to do something differently. Otherwise, you just, you live in this comfort zone, and we don't want to live in our comfort zone. Yeah, we want to be happy and satisfied. You won't get that every day. You keep something in your back pocket like I did. Massively. Right, so we've got a little time now, Brad, and I want to end with a bit of a happiness thing. We talked about overcoming adversity. Now, obviously, we've got people listening, and they don't want to think, oh God, I need something amazing and massive needs to happen to me. Well, it doesn't. We can all really find happiness and use lockdown. I mean, for me, lockdown's been quite amazing. I have been on this hamster wheel of life for a long time. I think when I retired, having defined myself as an athlete for 20 years, I needed to transition quickly and redefine myself. And so I went and did everything. I said yes to everything, and it's been absolutely crazy. And when I retired, I had a 3B plan. I wanted to set up a business, I wanted a breakfast bar in my house, and I wanted babies. And I did them all straight away, and it was absolute carnage. And actually, the day we knocked our first brick down in our house for a year project was the day after my son was born. So we had to find a year we've spent staying with friends. And, you know, things don't go to plan, but I look back and I think you make your own happiness. I think the one thing I just read about happiness in lockdown is, you know, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times. As long as you know where that light switch is and you turn on that light, take ownership of it. You find the light for you in lockdown, in this pause on life, and think, what can I be doing? And the people who are tuning in tonight, they are doing something good for themselves already. They are making the choice to come and hang out with us and have a positive messaging instead of watching some trash on the telly or, you know, a political speech. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I'll get in trouble for that. But yeah, I think, you know, let's talk about that for a minute, the happiness that comes from owning your choices.
Yeah, well, this is, I think, you know, this is the thing that matters most to me. It is about your choices and your response to it. Like, I can't control the weather, but I can control what I wear. I can't control British Rail performing on time, but I can control what time I turn up for my train. And so it's actually operating in what, you know, we call our circle of influence. What can I influence so that I'm in control of my own feelings and my own emotions, right? So there's one thing I can do is control how I feel. And if I feel bad, that's my choice. And if I feel good, that's also my choice. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that if your business goes down the gurgler or someone steals your skis, don't feel bad. Feel bad, right? But just know that that's a choice and it will pass. And that's one of the gifts I think that we've got towards happiness. I'm running a lot of online seminars at the moment for chief execs of small businesses or SMEs who own businesses between 5 and 100 million pound turnover. And I go, look, do me a favor. I know this might seem a trite question, but write down the 10 positive things out of COVID. And, you know, you and I spoke about this. I spend time with my wife and I'm eating well. I'm sleeping better. I've actually lost a bit of weight. I'm spending time with my kids. And that's an optimistic viewpoint. Now, I could ask you the opposite question. Name me 10 horrible things. You'll get 10 horrible, but where your focus is your choice, right? And it's almost a habit. And in fact, I wasn't planning to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. No, I won't be doing it because share screen's not enabled. But the thing is,
I'll tell a story and then you go back to your screen sharing, because I love your stuff that you've got on there. Because I think what you're talking about is this power in, even if you're not feeling happy, making the happy choices. And actually, during my career, a lot of people always said to me, how did I come back from injury? And I used the art of imitation. When I stood in that start gate and I was so far from being competitive, I wasn't Chemmy. I thought, you know what, who is the best person in the world at what I want to be doing? And it was Lindsey Vonn. And so I was like, how is she feeling right now? She is overbrimming with confidence. She knows that whatever happens on this run, whatever mistake she makes, she will win because she is that talented. She has that much self-belief. And I used to convince myself in that tiny bubble before I pushed out that start gate that I was someone else. I was a stronger, more confident, talented version of myself. And I think that is what you're saying. It's about making those choices. And there's nothing wrong with when you wake up and you feel crappy, you act happy. And if you act happy, it goes in. It really does.
Yeah. Because your physiology supports you in those choices. I call it your internal FM radio. What's your voice? Have you got the late night DJ FM guy talking to you or girl talking to you with that voice that encourages? Or have you got that scrawny political voice that's going, you can't do that, you know? And it's all in those choices. And Professor Richard Wiseman, who did this 10-year study of what do lucky people do versus people who aren't lucky, and there were 4 common traits that came out with all of them. And I think you tick every one of those boxes from what I've learned about you. Number 1 is lucky people expect good outcomes. irrespective of what's in front of them. They expect something good to come of it. Number two, they notice opportunities. So their map is always about scanning for opportunities, just as we heard Abby does. And number three, they listen to their intuition. Like, honestly, how often is your intuition ever wrong? I've never go, no, my intuition's wrong most of the time, Brad. It doesn't happen like that. And the fourth thing they do is they cope with adversity. So it's not adversity, oh, you're not good enough, sit down, pull your pants down, and I'll tan the back of your legs if you start to have good thoughts. It's not that at all. It's go, hey, this is not adversity. This is just my opportunity to solve it. And my son, he's just got his first professional rugby contract. He's only 17. And he has this thing that when adversity comes his way, he'll say the way he interrupts the adversity is he uses the word good. So if something bad happens to him, he goes, no, it's good, Dad. And I go, why? And then he'll give me the reason. And he reframes the adversity into like a springboard of opportunity. And I was watching him play his first proper big game up at Northampton. And I'm down on the sidelines and I go, Adam, come here, mate, come here. And he goes, what? And I said, I like a bit of psychological war in a game of rugger. And I said, who's your opposite number, mate? Because all the opposition had tracksuits on. And he said, see that big 6'4" Brahma bull? And I went, yeah, what? The kiddie next to him? He went, no, Dad, the Brahma bull. And I went, oh, jeez, this is going to hurt. And I said, how's that to you, mate? He goes, no, it's good. I go, why is it good? And he goes, because he won't expect me to put a shot on him quickly and early in the game. That's what I'm going to do.
Nice.
So he reframed it. I know I'm not giving you a skiing analogy, but it's just the way he sees the world. But take this into a personal level. He goes to a college in St. Albans. And when he travels down where I am down in Brighton, it's a 2.5 hour train trip. There's one direct train. He calls me up at 5:17. That's the time of the train, and says, Dad, the train's been cancelled. And I went, oh, mate. And I said, how are you? And he goes, no, it's good. And I go, why is it good? And he goes, because I can get all my course homework done. So that means I've got a free weekend by the time I get home. That extra hour is all I need. And I just went,
wow. You have mentored him amazingly.
Oh, mate, to an inch of his life. Sometimes he's only alive because it's against the law to kill him. Let's be honest. He is a child. But the kid does well. And you grow the child so you don't have to fix the adult. And I just do the best I can, wow. Without having to chase the medals.
That's incredible. I'm actually watching The Last Dance at the moment, the Michael Jordan show.
Oh.
And it's so interesting seeing his mindset and his belief. I've just got to the point where he quit baseball and came back to basketball, and his whole body is wrong for the sport, and yet he's still so uber gutted when he loses because there's expectations of his own performance and his talent are so big. And I just think it's such a great. I'm not even into basketball. I just love people and I love stories and I love legends. It's not about that for me.
No, it's not about the sport. It's about the person, right?
Exactly.
It comes back to the possibility, what you see in each other. That Sariti word I used earlier on, it lays strong. There's just one more thing I'd love to share with you, which is it's a Zulu story that talks about this grandfather that has 2 lions in his heart and they're fighting. And he says, and his grandchild gets told the story, I've got these 2 lions, one's full of love and compassion. The other lion is full of death and destruction. And the grandchild said, which lion will win, Granddad? And he said, the lion that I feed. And for us as athletes, what lion do we feed? When you get up into the mountains and you start to think, should I do this run or should I do that run? Know that there's a difference between fear and danger. They're very different things. But when you code them as the same, you don't take those steps of possibility. And you know what it's like when you come down from something that you thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. That's the line you fed today. Let's make sure we feed that line every day.
Oh, I love that. And my motto is kind of in synergy with that is I never lose. Either I win or I learn. I'm either going to go all out and I'm going to crash and I'm going to be in that helicopter and I'm going to be in pain, or I'm going to be fast. And I think that these are the decisions the choices that we have to make. And we can make them to empower us instead of to put stress and pressure on us. So basically we're going to end with, I know we have a lot of people, some lovely chats, but I think we have overrun. So I just want to say, use this chat, use this time you know, to learn about yourself, to be honest, to be vulnerable, but to also find your own strengths and note your own strengths, note how you're handling things, and bring that to your life on the outside, and take those risks. I think it's so important, so important. So many people living within yourselves. I'm just going to end with, you are as great as you want to be, and you control how successful you will be. Don't let anyone else define those boundaries. Whether you win or you lose, you will learn from experiences, but don't be afraid to take risks. And finally, if anyone ever tells you that you can't, stand tall, be your own lion, feed the right lion, be as big as you possibly can be, and reply and say, watch me, I will, because that is the biggest motivating factor. And right now, the world, the pandemic is telling us that we can't, but we will. Mm-hmm. And those mountains will still be there when this is over, and they will be better than ever. That first time that you see that pink snow with the sunrise on it, and it's just you out there, remember that time, because that is what you have worked towards through all of this lockdown. So that's it now. I just want to say a huge thank you to Brad. It's been amazing getting to know you, Brad. I think this whole experience has really introduced me to some absolutely incredible people. You are up there with that. I'm so thankful that you've come and talked to everyone at the ski club. Our members are very special to us. We've got very loyal members up and down the country. It's an honor to have been able to host this evening and bring us all together in this virtual room, something that we've never, ever been able to do before. And all I say is, you know, pray for the snow and enjoy those first turns back, because they're going to be epically special for us all. Thank you. Thanks, Brad. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So
Thank
good.
you, team. If anyone wants to keep chatting, I'll let Brad go. But if anyone's got any chat or questions that they want, we did say at the beginning, there's just some lovely positive messaging on here. So we've got someone who started an academy in Hackney with the mantra of being the best you can be. Boom. That's kind of something we talked about all evening. 40 pupils on ski holidays to Austria for the first time in their life. Some of them have never been out of Hackney. I actually do some work with Snow Camp, and that's something really important to them, using snow sports to teach children invaluable life skills. I think that's all. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic Friday and weekend, and see you all on the slopes. You too, Brad. See you on the slopes. Yes?
Yeah, you got me there.
Got you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.